Connection doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in shared spaces, places where our kids show they're seen, supported, and never completely alone. And that brings us to one of the simplest, most powerful ways to protect that connection. Hi, friends, and welcome back to our Conversation Book Club. Today, we're exploring Chapter 6 of Disconnected by Thomas Kersting, titled Parenting from a Distance. And this chapter hits close to home for many of us because it shines a light on the quiet, gradual shift happening right under our noses. Kersting isn't just talking about screen time, he's talking about what happens when screens start replacing relationships. When meaningful conversations are replaced by scrolling, when shared moments turn into parallel play between parent and child, each lost in their own device. He starts with a statistic that's hard to ignore. On page 113, he says, according to Norman Herr of California State University at Northridge, the average parent spends just 3.5 minutes per week in meaningful conversation with their children. Let sit for a second. 3.5 minutes per week. That's not just low. That's a complete disconnect. None of us wakes up intending to ignore our kids, but life moves fast between work, chores, activities, and yes, even the screens. It becomes easy to trade quality for convenience. We ask, did you do your homework, or what do you want for dinner? But we are getting past the surface. Kersting's point is that meaningful conversation is what builds the bridge between parent and child. Not just words, but eye contact, listening, questions that lead somewhere. It's how we remind our kids, I see you, I'm here, you matter. Which leads to another powerful idea from this chapter on page 113. And he says, screens have no place at the dinner table. Anytime we stick a screen in front of our children during meals, we squander an opportunity to solidify our parent-child bond. And dinner may only last 20 minutes, but it's 20 minutes we get every single day. When we hand that time over to a screen, whether it's the TV in the background or a phone on the table, we're saying this distraction matters more than what we could be sharing right now. And it's not just dinner. He says on page 114, the dinner table and car rides are full of potential because they present parents with perfect opportunity to talk to their children about their day, learn what's on their mind, and form deep bonds with them. Yet, we are allowing screens to steal this from us. Think about how many moments pass us by each week. Car rides, grocery store trips, post-practice snack runs. They're not just errands, they're openings, small windows where trust is built, humor is shared, or hard questions are asked. We don't need more time. We need to claim the time we already have. This reminds me of a story, one that offers a simple metaphor for the connections that form when we're fully present. Read it to your child and then ask the questions at the end. The title of the story is called The Puzzle Table. A family had set a small table up in their den with a half-finished puzzle always in progress. No rules, no timers, just a spot where anyone could add a piece or two whenever they passed by. At first, it sat untouched. Everyone was too busy rushing to finish homework, check messages, or squeeze in one more episode. But one evening, the daughter sat down and quietly fit a few pieces together. Her mom joined, then her brother, and before long, the puzzle table became their meeting place. Not for big talks, but for small ones. They shared funny stories, asked how the day went. Sometimes they just sat in silence, working side by side. Weeks later, when the puzzle was finished, the daughter said, I like doing this together. And so they started a new one. And the lesson here is being present doesn't have to mean planning a big activity. Sometimes connection happens in the quiet places that we make room for. And so after reading that story, you can ask your child a couple of questions or just one. What made the puzzle table space different than just, say, watching a show together? Or what's one small way your family could make space to be together? The puzzle table worked not because of the puzzle, but because it brought people together face to face. That kind of interaction is more than nice, it's necessary. Now, Kersting goes on to say on page 116, our children need to communicate with other children and us face to face because it is critical to their social and emotional development. Now, let's be honest. I know texting is easier. Messaging apps, snap streaks, video clips, they let kids connect without ever having to navigate awkward silences, read facial expressions, or sit with someone else's discomfort. But that's exactly why in-person interactions are so important. It's where empathy is built. When our kids talk to us face to face, when they see our reactions, hear our tone, and sit in a moment of real presence, they learn how to tune into other people's feelings. That emotional awareness helps them make friends, navigate tough situations, and grow into emotionally strong adults. And that doesn't happen through emojis. It happens through eye contact. And what builds emotional strength and empathy? It's not just presence, it's conversation. On page 116, Kersting was talking about the patients he sees, and he said, quote, the problems usually have something to do with anxiety, depression, or behavioral issues, and the cause is usually tied to social media or video games. These parents feel helpless. The answer I give them is very simple. Talk to them. And it sounds almost too simple, just talk, but think about it. How many times have we assumed our child didn't want to open up without really giving them the chance? We try to fix things with rules or consequences or schedules, but we skip the most powerful tool we have, connection. Not every problem needs a program. Sometimes it just needs a person. And this reminds me of a story that you can share with your child. It's called The Kite and the Storm. Logan had a rough day at school. He failed a quiz, argued with a friend, and by the time he got home, everything just felt heavy. Instead of saying anything, he stomped to his room and flopped on his bed, not ready to talk. A few minutes later, his dad walked in, not with questions, but with 2 kites. Wind's good. Want to fly? Logan didn't answer, but he got up and followed him anyway. At the park, they didn't say much at first, just the whir of wind, string, and silence. But after a while, Logan said quietly, today was the worst day. And little by little, it came out, the quiz, the fight, the way he felt like everything had gone wrong. His dad didn't try to fix it, he just listened. And somehow, by the time they packed up, Logan's storm didn't feel so big anymore. And here's a lesson. When you feel upset or overwhelmed, it's okay to take a minute, but don't stay stuck inside your storm. You don't have to figure it all out on your own. Talking to someone, even a little, can help let some of the wind out. Here are a few questions that you can chat about. Why do you think Logan started to feel better during the kite flight? And who's someone you can talk to when things feel heavy? Logan didn't need a solution. He needed space to feel what he was feeling and someone willing to meet him there. But that kind of connection doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in shared spaces, places where our kids show they're seen, supported, and never completely alone. And that brings us to one of the simplest, most powerful ways to protect that connection. Kersting says on page 117, 118, a child, no matter what age, should not have any electronics whatsoever in their bedroom. This is one of the firmest boundaries Kersting suggests, and it's one that makes a huge difference. Why? Because bedrooms become echo chambers. When screens move in, they reinforce isolation. And when we're not there to supervise, the content they consume or the conversations they have can take them further away from the family structure that holds them steady. Sleep suffers, mood suffer. Self-worth starts to attach to what's happening on the screen. And once that boundary is broken, it's hard to rebuild. But even when our kids are near us, even when they're in the same room, we can still lose that connection if our attention is somewhere else. Kersting talks on page 128 about parents who are at their child's event, but not really. He says, yes, they are at the game physically to support their child, but they are not there mentally. You show up to the recital, the soccer game, the awards ceremony, and then you check a message, scroll through photos, post something cute. Your body's there, but your eyes aren't. And your kids, they notice. They look up from the field and see you staring at your screen. And the moment that was supposed to be shared now feels one-sided. We don't need to be perfect, but we do need to be present. That presence doesn't just matter during big events, it matters all the time. Kids don't just listen to what they say, they watch what we do. And he says on page 119, parental screen time often leads to children feeling unimportant later in life and developing emotional disorders. Our children need us to be present. We can't ask our kids to put their phones down if we're always on ours. They're watching. When we pick up the phone instead of picking up a conversation, it sends a message even if we don't mean to. They start to think, maybe what I say doesn't matter that much. But the good news, every small moment of presence makes a difference. Every time you choose to engage over scroll, you send a different message. You matter more. Sometimes it's not the big dramatic moments that shape how kids feel. It's the little ones, the ones that whisper, you matter. And those moments can come out of nowhere. So let me tell you a story about Jalen that your child might enjoy. It's called the Backpack Mix-Up. Jalen and his best friend Evan had the exact same backpack, same color, same brand, same everything. One Friday as school ended, Jalen grabbed what he thought was his own bag, and when he got home, he tossed it on the kitchen floor without a second thought. Later that night, he unzipped it to do some of his homework and realized something was off. The books weren't his, and inside the front pocket was a birthday card, but not for him. It was from Evan's grandma. It said, "Happy birthday, Evan. You've always made me proud. Never forget how strong and kind you are." Jalen felt a little awkward reading someone else's card, but something about the message stuck with him. Even though it wasn't written to him, he imagined what it would feel like to get a card like that, to have someone say those things and really mean them. He zipped the bag back up and planned to return it Monday, but all weekend that one sentence echoed in his head. Never forget how strong and kind you are. Made him wonder, had he ever said something like that to someone else? On Monday, he gave Evan his bag and said, "Hey, your grandma writes awesome cards." Evan grinned. "She sends me one every year. I keep all of them in a shoebox." That night, Jalen grabbed a sticky note and wrote a message to his little sister. "You always make me laugh when I'm upset. Thanks for being awesome." And he stuck it in her lunchbox. And here's a lesson. A kind message, even a small one, can make a big difference. Our words have power. We can lift someone up, help them feel seen, and remind them they're not alone. So when you have the chance to say something kind, take it. You never know who might need to hear it. And then you can ask some of these questions. Can you think of a time when someone's words made you feel better? And what's one kind message you could give someone this week, just because? Like the note in the backpack, small moments of connection leave a lasting mark. And that's what makes something as simple as dinner together so powerful. On page 121, Kersting says, children who regularly eat dinner with their families are less likely to engage in risky behavior and more likely to do better in school and be happier overall. It's not about what you eat, it's about who you eat with. Dinner is a built-in anchor in the chaos of life. It's a reset, a check-in, a reminder that no matter how busy the day was, we still come back to the table, to each other. Even 3 dinners a week makes a difference. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. It's these ordinary routines, like dinner, that slowly stitch our families closer together. And the good news, it's not too late to start. Connection is always within reach. As we wrap things up, this chapter is an invitation to step closer. Yes, the digital world is loud, fast, and ever present, but so are we if we choose to be. We can put down our screens, we can reclaim our dinner tables, we can look up, look in, and let our kids know that they're not being raised by Wi-Fi, they're being raised by us. Thanks for being here. Until the next time, keep having those conversations.